let's get you breaking updates coming in from the markets. As the US President Donald Trump teased an endgame, the markets are seeing a big hope of peace. So Sensex has gained as much as 1,600 points. So Nifty has jumped nearly 2%. A lot of cheering after Trump suggested that there could be an end in the war very soon, that there could be an end in sight, that a peace deal could be brought in soon. So immediately after that, there's a huge jump in the markets. Let's take this across to my colleague Hina Gambhir joining us on the broadcast with the details. Though Hina, truth be told, Trump has hinted at this quite a few times. What's different now? Because it's a big leap that we're seeing in the markets.
You know, Pratibha, markets react on the basis of sentiment. Right now, there is hope. There is hope that maybe there is going to be a deal very soon between Iran and the United States of America, because we will go by what the President of the United States of America has said, even though he said similar things in the past. But still, his statement has brought a lot of hope and cheer among investors, in stock markets across Asia, because if the war ends, if indeed there is some kind of a peace agreement, then supply disruptions at Strait of Hormuz are going to end, which will mean oil will start flowing freely from Middle East to other parts of the world. And this is something that's really bringing a lot of cheer on Dalal Street here in India. In fact, earlier markets were seeing a gain of about 600 odd points in the first half of the trading session. But right now, the Sensex is seeing a gain of 1,658 points. It's up about 2.25%. It's trading at 75,491. If you look at Nifty at this point in time, Pratibha, then Nifty is also seeing a gain of over 2% right now. It is, eyeing 24,000 mark. It's seeing a gain of 469 points. This exuberance is essentially also emerging from the fact that because of Donald Trump's statement, the Brent crude prices in the energy market have fallen sharply. There has been at least a 4% drop in the Brent crude oil prices, which is a good news for a country, for an oil importing country like India. Brent crude prices have fallen below $90 per barrel. So, overall, it looks that things are going in the right direction. But when it comes to Trump, nobody can really predict what's going to happen, because he's made several flip-flops in the past as well. He's changed his statements many a times in the past as well. And also, it is important to understand how Tehran has reacted to what Trump has said. Remember, Tehran has called it speculation. So whether a deal actually happens or not remains to be seen. But for now, this announcement has brought cheer in the energy market, and that's boosting sentiment here on Dalal Street.
All right, Hina, just to speak about what has been happening over the last few weeks, you did mention that markets work on sentiment, and we have seen that multiple times previously as well. There's been a lot of fluctuation that we've seen in the markets, especially considering when the war started, there was a big slump. But over the last several weeks, there have been some indications that there could be a peace deal. But then again, there has been a big U-turn on that as well. So can we say as of now whether this momentum is going to continue, or is it too hard to predict?
Well, right now, when it comes to Trump, you can't really predict anything, because we don't know what he might say tonight. Remember, on Thursday, he suggested that he's going to, strike Iran. US is going to strike Iran. And then suddenly the plans changed. The plans were put on hold. And now he's talking about the possibility of signing of this peace deal next week, perhaps in Europe. So, the statements that are coming, they look very encouraging. But you also have to understand what the other party has said in this particular case. Iran, however, has not completely agreed to what Trump has said so far. But like I said, markets work on sentiment. And if the President of the United States of America is saying that there is going to be possibility of some kind of a peace agreement between US and Iran, so markets are right now going by it, because of what he has said. The oil prices have fallen down. A fall in oil prices is great news for a country like India, like I said, because we import at least 85% of the oil that we consume here in India. And our petrol and diesel prices, our LPG prices have gone up sharply because of what's happening in West Asia. So if prices at the global level fall down, for our economy, it's going to be a good news. And that sentiment is something that's being witnessed on Dalal Street today.
Okay, Hina, stay with us just a moment. We have more breaking updates now coming in. Oil prices are also seeing a sharp fall on the hopes of peace. Brent crude has also slipped below $90 mark, and Brent has tumbled to $86 per barrel. So, Hina, there's a big update coming in here as well, with the oil prices also seeing a sharp fall. Is this an indication that perhaps peace actually could happen soon?
That's right, because oil markets have seen, a big impact of what we have seen happening in West Asia. Now, US has given us a hope that there could be a peace deal very soon. On the other hand, there is a pushback from Tehran, but despite that, oil markets are reacting positively, and that's why Brent has fallen below $90 per barrel.
Hina, just stay with us a moment. We have Mr. Ajay Dua, former Union Secretary Commerce, joining us on the broadcast. Thank you for joining us. Big cheer that we're seeing in the markets. Oil prices also seeing a very sharp decline. So is this a clear indication that there is actual hope of peace?
Thank you so much. I do think that there could be positive developments later today, because as you would recall, last evening President Trump was in a much more different mood. He was belligerent about kind of saying we would be bombing Iran very heavily. But overnight the situation changed. And I think that something is happening rather quickly, because it seems Ayatollah, and the news is from the US, that Ayatollah has given his consent to the peace deal. So that is what I think the markets are relying upon. The markets think that if the two sides, the heads of two sides have agreed, then there is something positive to be coming. And we see its impact on the price of Brent, which is, as you said, closer to $80, and it hasn't been in that level for quite some time. And the stock markets, in turn, showing increase of such a large 1,500 to 1,600 points. So I do hope that it sustains, and it is not like the 39 previous times when hopes have been raised only to be shattered soon thereafter.
Yes. Mr. Ajay Dua, thank you for joining us on the broadcast. So your reading is that there is a real possibility, a real hope that there could be peace soon. Remember, a final decision on the agreement, Trump has hinted, is a real possibility. He said that things are going on positively. Listen into his statement.
Great settlement of the war with Iran, and we're going to be subject to finalization of documents, which should get done over the next few days. Probably have a signing maybe in Europe. And most importantly, we have a deal that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, which was the whole purpose of what we had to go through to get this. So it's a very big thing.
Senior Executive Editor Srinjoy Chaudhary also joins us on the broadcast with the details of what can be expected. We've heard Trump make this claim time and again, Srinjoy. Iran, though, has it made any statement on this? Because Trump again goes on to claim that it is likely to be signed immediately. Have we heard from Iran on this?
There has been no conclusive statement on the Iranians. They will have to look at this issue. And as Trump himself says, this goes through several people in Iran before Iran arrives at a decision. But more importantly, President Trump has said different things at different times. Once he said he is ready to bomb Iran into the Stone Age. Then shortly afterwards, he said a deal was almost imminent. Then, of course, very famously, he spoke about a time when he said it would lead to the end of a civilization, meaning Iran. And then again, we have heard about a deal. So this deal, he has actually said, will happen soon and in Europe. We have to see what happens now, what the Iranians say, and what actually happens on the ground in the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, all right. Do stay with us. There are questions on what's going to happen next. But of course, Trump has very clearly indicated that there could be some positive news. In fact, Times Now also spoke to Israeli ambassador to India, Reuven Azar, Times Now managing editor Zaka Jacob in conversation with him, and here's what he said about the possibility.
I mean, we've heard this since the start of this war, I think 20 or 30 times from President Trump that we're at a deal, we've got a deal. First he threatens, and then at the last minute he backs off from the threat. What is your understanding of whether Israel is on board this process? Where are we as far as an agreement is concerned? Is it on the table yet? He says we could see a signing ceremony in Europe in the next few days. Is Israel aware?
It's very clear. First of all, yes, we are in sync and we are talking all the time. The Prime Minister Netanyahu is speaking with President Trump almost on a daily basis. But on top of that, look, it's very clear, Zaka, since the outset that the Iranians could have reached this deal even before military operations started. And it's their intransigence and their this kind of violent operations they've been conducting, trying to punch above their weight in order to try to get the United States to give up their effort and remain the hegemonist power in the region. So that is not going to happen.
You believe that Iran significantly now has reduced the ability to possess a nuclear weapon? That's what you said? That
Absolutely.
Iran's ability to possess a nuclear weapon
Absolutely.
has been significantly cut down.
And I can elaborate.
So why don't you end the war then? That was the number one objective.
Right,
the war is still on.
Well, first of all, the intensive part of the military operations,
Is over.
is over and was over many weeks back.
April 8th, I think, the ceasefire.
The second thing is that we have to make sure that they don't go back to produce nuclear weapons. So I think that it is a fair attempt to create agreement on the removal of fissile material, a ban on enrichment, because Iran has been cheating the international community and the IAEA has been very clear about that. So I think that if we want to have stability for the longer term, it is better to do any diplomatic effort to get the Iranians to comply with the will of the international community when it comes to preventing the production of nuclear weapons.
But I think President Trump and his people have been saying that we could expect some kind of an agreement to be signed as soon as the next few days
We'll see.
in Europe. Is Israel aware of it? Is Israel on board with such an agreement?
Well,
and what will that agreement continue?
Israel is not part of that agreement. We will continue having a monopoly on our right of self-defense